Okay, so we said that in reality, all firms actually operate in the short run. So, when you're going about your day-to-day business, you're always constrained by one of your fixed factors of production. That's just life. As we said, as a school, you're stuck with the buildings that you've got. As a kebab van, you've got the van that you've got. Whatever this turns out to be. So therefore, when we're looking at operating decisions, we're looking at the short run. The other thing we said we were looking to do was to try to understand firms' strategic, just tactical decisions about things like price and output. And we said that what we were going to assume that firms were going to do was to maximize their profits. And we said that profits are revenue minus cost. So what we're going to do here is we're going to build a model of a firm. And we're going to say, what might a representative firm look like in terms of its costs? Now, as I said to you before, this is neoclassical theory, so we're assuming some fairly simple owner-run single product firms of a kind of manufacturing type. That's what the model tends to apply to. So if you're looking at it, kind of going, well, that doesn't seem to be true for a cinema or something. Well, you're probably right. So bear that in mind as we go. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at what sort of costs do firms have in the loosest of senses, and one important distinction, or division rather, is the difference between what are called, on the one hand, fixed costs, and on the other hand, variable costs. And these two terms are slightly misleading in the sense that fixed costs can change. So let's be clear what we mean by the idea of a fixed cost. A fixed cost is one that doesn't change as output changes. So in other words, as output gets bigger, this cost stays the same. So this tends to be, classically students will always say things like rent, but also things like interest payments on a loan that you've taken out as a business. They don't depend on the number of marker pens that you're making. So fixed cost is one where if I make an increasingly large number of marker pens, here's my first one, here's my second one, here's my third one, here's my fourth one. These are costs that don't change as I make more of these pens. However, they can change. It's like the firm's heating bill or something. That probably doesn't depend on the number of pens that I'm making, but it's obviously higher in the winter than it is in the summer. If your bank changes interest rates and you have to renegotiate your mortgage, then your interest payments change. So they're not fixed. They're fixed with output. They don't change as output changes. So what are variable costs? Well, variable costs, therefore, are fairly simple. They're the same idea. But guess what? They rise. Variable costs are costs that rise in total as output rises. So it doesn't mean that this pen is more expensive than this. If we take, they tend to be things like, components, raw materials. So if we take our marker pens as an example, an important variable cost, for this business is probably the plastic and the ink that goes into this pen. Each pen probably costs the same as the last one. So this one cost them, probably not, but £1 for the sake of argument. This one cost them £1 to make. This one cost them another £1 to make. This one cost them another £1 to make. But it's variable because if we make one, it's £1. If we make two, that's another £1, which makes two. If we make three, that's another £1, which makes three. So variable costs are those that rise in total as output rises. But they might stay the same for each particular unit. It's just that as you make more units, you need more raw materials, you need more components, maybe you need more labour and so on. So those are what we mean by variable costs. So fixed costs do not change in total as we make more pens. Variable costs, as we make more pens, they do change in total we need more plastic to make 4 pens than we need to make 1 pen, but we don't need more rent to make 4 pens than we need to make 1 pen. And that's the difference between fixed and variable costs.